Hi guys, this is a very long overdue video that I had recorded with Ghanaian author Ayesha Harruna Attah in February of 2019, and for all kinds of different reasons I haven't been able to upload this video, but I'm so grateful and so glad that I'm able to do it today. We had met at the beautiful Hotel Shattuck, or the Shattuck Hotel in Berkeley, California. So this hotel is situated right across from UC Berkeley. And it was just a nice, lovely Saturday morning. And I was able to speak with her about her book and, her upcoming projects and her thoughts on the Ghanaian tourism industry, amongst other things. So please enjoy this video. And if you haven't already, please like, comment, and subscribe. Hi guys! So I am here in Berkeley, California with the wonderful author Ayesha Harruna Attah. And she is the author of 100 Wells of Salaga, Harmattan Rain, and Saturday's Shadows. And I'm so excited to meet with her today. We will be talking about the 100 Wells of Salaga. I've done a video already about this book. I hope that you've watched it. If you haven't, please go back and watch it, and then you can get some more information and details about the book, as well as where to purchase it as well. So today we are going to have a lovely conversation with the author. She is not only educated in writing. She received her MFA in creative writing from NYU, but she's also studied biochemistry at Mount Holyoke University, or Mount Holyoke College, and Columbia University. So thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you for having me.
It's my pleasure. I'm so excited. I have so many questions for you today.
Shoot, I'm ready.
I read The Hundred Wells of Salaga last year, and I really enjoyed it. I mean, it's a great work of historical fiction, and it made me proud as a Ghanaian to read this type of work. All right, so we are going to talk about you're going to tell us a little bit about the 100 Wells of Salaga and read a little excerpt for us.
So The 100 Wells of Salaga is a book about two women, Wuche and Amina, who live in pre-colonial Ghana. This is before Ghana becomes Ghana, and even before it's the Gold Coast.
Yeah.
And Amina is a woman who is kidnapped from her home country, or her village more like, which is in present-day Burkina Faso, and she's sent to the Salaga slave market in the north of Ghana. And Wuche is a princess in this region, in this Salaga region.
Yes.
And Amina, before she's kidnapped, is a daydreamer. She wants to do things with her hands. She has ambition, and all of her dreams are curtailed when her village is raided. On the other side, Wuche is a go-getter. She's this brash, badass of a woman.
She really is, you guys.
Who wants to be king. She doesn't even want to be queen. She wants to be king.
Yes.
And her dreams are also put on hold because her father decides to marry her off to a prince from another ethnic group. I'm not giving away too much.
No, you're not, because I've said the same things already. Yeah.
And so, the book is about how they meet. It's about courage. It's about persistence. It's about ultimately freedom and what people go through to get that, or to realize that they need to be free.
Yes.
So,
Yes.
And I wrote this because I learned my great-great-grandmother had been enslaved. So the character Amina is based on my great-great-grandmother.
Right.
Yes.
Oh my gosh,
Yes.
that is so. I have so many questions about that.
Okay.
After you read your excerpt.
Okay, so I'll read right from the beginning, just so people get a flavor for what the time and place was like.
Yeah.
So I have a map. When you get the book, you can look at it some more. So imagine that this is in the region of Burkina Faso before colonization.
Yeah.
The caravans could come at dawn. The caravans could come when the sun was highest in the sky. The caravans could come when midnight had cloaked everything in velvety blue. The only sure thing was that the Sokoto caravans would come well before the end of the dry season. But now that had changed. For weeks, Amina and the rest of Butu were not even sure the caravans would come at all. Even though rain clouds had not yet emptied, Lightning lit up the sky in the distance and thunder boomed. The grass had already started to grow tall, and there was talk of horsemen getting closer. Horsemen who razed everything to the ground. Horsemen who scared of the caravansary. Horsemen who stole people. It wasn't a good sign. Yeah.
Wow. You guys, you have no idea what you're missing. You have to get this book, okay?
Thank you.
So one of the things is, so regarding your grandmother, having been a slave in Salaga, I know that you went up to that area of Ghana at some point during your research. Mm-hmm. And I of course, I know the answer to some of this because I've read, but I want you to tell the audience about what it is that you encountered when you went up there and how you were able to form this character for your grandmother.
Okay, it's a great question. I went up to Salaga in 2012. I think it was the Christmas of 2012 into 2013. And I have family who's still there. So I met my uncle. This uncle has since passed, which really made me sad because he didn't get to see the book when it came out.
Sorry about that.
I know. So anyway, he was my guide to Salaga, and he also got the official tour guide of Salaga to come with us. And we went all over the place. We started off in the Salaga slave market, which is now a lorry station. All you see is the sign, Salaga slave market, but there are cars and people selling. Which is sad. I feel like places like that need to be held as sacred.
As sacred sites. That's exactly
not even for tourism, but just for what it is and what happened over and over there. The original trees, which is where people were tied to, have since been cut down and replaced with another set of trees. But it's business as usual, it's just a lorry station. And then from there we went a little bit on the outskirts of the town to these places where you could see the 100 Wells of Salaga. So I didn't see 100, I saw maybe 3 or 4, but all over Salaga there are wells. And why this is, why I'll take that again. So all over Salaga, there are hundreds of wells, and this is because when people had been captured and they'd been walking for days and days and days, by the time they got to Salaga, as you can imagine, they would be covered in dust, and some of them hadn't bathed for goodness knows how long. So my tour guide, the official tour guide, said to me, well, if you want to sell a product, you want to make sure it's shiny and presentable.
Of course.
And the product in this case was human beings. So the wells were dug out by the slaves themselves, the enslaved people. And then the water collected in them was used to wash the people who had come from these journeys. And there were these holes in the ground where you'd be put in. So I stood in one of the holes. So you'd be put in and then you'd wash yourself.
You stood in one of them? Oh my goodness.
It was something. And then there were women standing by the holes with bowls, I imagine calabashes of shea butter, and then you'd have to slather yourself with shea butter, and then you'd be sent on to the slave market to be auctioned. So we went there. We went to a big cemetery, which is, in other words, a mass grave, because nothing is marked out. That's where the slaves who hadn't found the strength to go on were buried. And then we went to the museum, which was so run down. And it had some of the shackles that were used for the enslaved people, some of the guns that were used in the raids, and then there were pots of calabashes of shea butter. But again, another rundown place. So Salaga has been, I think, a bit abandoned compared to like the Elmina and Cape Coast castles, which are, on the coast and closer to the seat of government. So Salaga was really sad. It was actually a really sad state of affairs over there. And I saw, this was 2012, I saw a video from maybe 2018 that said they were trying to renovate the museum. I don't know what it's like now. I haven't been since.
I saw the video also.
But I don't think much has changed since I visited. Because even then, it was dusty, and the videos on YouTube now don't look any different from when I visited.
So since you've written the book, have you heard from the Ministry of Tourism or anything in Ghana?
No.
At all?
No. But I've reached out to he's a family friend. His name is Pa John Datson, and he worked with my mother. They did a lot of reporting on tourist sites in Ghana when they worked together, and I think he wrote for my father's newspaper as well. And now he's linked to the tourism
I know
board.
him.
Yes.
I know him.
So I
You're a
sent him a
friend.
copy of the book, and
Okay.
he's read it, and he's going to respond to me, hopefully. So that's a start.
Oh, wow.
But, yeah.
The pancakes?
Breakfast
for me,
with you
yeah.
guys.
Oh, all right.
No, we're recording something.
Oh, okay.
She's got the pancakes. Here you go, ma'am.
Thank you.
And I've got all the other
All
good
right.
stuff.
Yeah. And
Thank
need some silverware.
Yes,
Yes,
please.
please.
Okay, I'll be right back.
Thank you
Thank
very
you.
much.
Ooh, maybe I'll try this one. It looks really good. No, I'm here 3 days, so tomorrow
Dig in,
it
dig
looks
in.
really good. You've inspired me for breakfast tomorrow.
Yeah.
So yeah, Pa John has responded to say that he will get back to me. So that's
Okay.
good. Yeah. So that's
Oh,
good.
my.
But apart from him,
Nobody.
nobody. Yeah.
Thank
Thank
again.
you.
You're welcome.
And I live in Senegal, so it's true that I'm not really connected on the ground sometimes in Ghana.
Yeah.
But all the same, I feel
How,
like
so since you've mentioned it, how did you end up in Senegal? And I will get back to the 100 Wells.
okay.
I just-
My Bon Appetit.
Thank you.
My
Too.
first book, Hamatan Rain, was written there
Okay.
because I had finished grad school here. This was in 2007. And I moved back to Ghana, not really sure what I wanted to do with myself. I was 23. And then I found out that my aunt had been corresponding with Ayikwe Ama, the beautiful ones on my born.
Yeah.
And she told me that he had a program for writers aged 25 to 35 who wanted to write their first book. So I wrote to him and said, I'm a really mature 23-year-old. Here's my writing sample. And then the rest, they say, is history. He accepted my application. I went there, wrote Hamatan Rain. And so he's become my mentor. And then I came back and did my MFA to solidify my writing cred. And then because I thought maybe if I want to teach down the line, it's good to have an MFA. Then I worked for a bit in New York. And when I was done, he emailed me to say, you know how to write now. You have the technique. But if you want to get content, come back and work with me on a number of projects. So I did, and I moved to Senegal, and then life happened. Now I'm married, I have a baby, and yeah, we've
Congratulations.
planted roots there. Thank you.
Wow, that is so beautiful. I've always wanted to go to Senegal because, and of course, they've opened the new African Museum. Have you been there?
Not yet.
Not
but
yet. Okay.
I plan to.
Okay.
It opened, I think, almost before I left. Maybe a month before I left, and I don't live in Dakar.
Okay.
So it's always a trip out.
Okay.
Yeah,
You don't
so
live in Dakar.
I
Okay.
live in the same village where I wrote the first book, Pupengin. It's so beautiful. It's by the sea. It's calm. It's a writer's haven.
Oh my.
Yeah.
I am so in love with this. Your life is a beautiful story. This is lovely. So if I ever make my way to Senegal,
Call
I'll
me
be
up.
sure to call you so that you
Yeah.
can tell me where to go.
Yeah.
So let's
You're
get back to the
welcome.
100 Wells.
Okay.
I want to talk about Wurche and Amina because these are such, they're very, different characters, but the same in some ways, you know, that they're both very fragile inside, in a sense, right? I mean, they have they've experienced these traumatic experiences in their lives. But how did this character of Wurche come about? Because I love her. And I especially love the horse riding. I know that that's common. Even today in Hausa society,
Yeah.
people ride horses
Yeah.
still. But I just love this character. How did you create?
Wuching.
Yeah, how did you create her?
So when I started writing, I knew it would be about my grandmother, and so I was focusing on Amina's story for a long time.
Yeah.
And then in other drafts, there was no Wuche. But as I was doing my research, I came across one line, just one line in a book,
Yeah.
that said princesses in Gonja society, which is where Wuche's people are from, they had the right to choose whoever they wanted to marry. Even if the man was already married, she could, take him from the woman's clutches or whatever. So I thought, oh,
That is interesting.
that's interesting. That to me sounds like women in that society are given quite a lot of freedom. Oh, not just women who are aristocrats. So I thought it'd be interesting to create a character who is the freest woman in the society, and then have her move in tandem with Amina, who is enslaved. And then, as often happens, she got a life of her own as I was writing things that I didn't really expect happened to her.
Yeah.
And it's interesting that they are very different, and yet life sort of throws the same curveballs at them in different ways. But they both get caged, and both have to struggle to find themselves again. So that happened organically as I was writing. I'm a planner, and I try to say this will happen to this person and that and that and that. But once you start writing, all that goes out the window, and the characters breathe lives into their own selves.
Yeah, that is incredible. So now Amina is this lovely beauty. And there's so much life to her, and with her being Hausa and everything like that. So how much
more like Fulani?
Oh, she's Fulani. That's true. I don't know why I figured Hausa, because I think
the whole area,
being so beautiful and the
features.
Because people normally associate Fulani with beauty and all these things. Yes, but I don't know why I'm the Hausa, because people were speaking the Hausa
and she speaks it too.
She speaks Hausa. Yeah. Okay. So
because it was the language of the caravans at that point.
So in terms of like your research with that, I mean, how far north did you have to go to write this book?
So for Amina, I tried to get my family to open up, because I wanted to write about this woman who had, mothered my great grandmother and then my grandmother. And as I started talking to family members, not necessarily like my father and his brothers and sisters, but people who were closer to this woman in Salaga, nobody would talk about her. Every time I brought her up, they would just change the subject, and so I didn't get much about her. And also the fact that when I was drawing my family tree, my dad, which is how I found out about her to begin with, he said the slave's daughter was his grandmother. So I said, what's her name? And nobody knew her name. So the fact that she was remembered as the slave was telling in itself. So to write her character, I had to do a lot of soul searching. Like, it wasn't through research. I used research as the scaffolding to tell her story, but who she was sort of came internally. It came from studying my father and his grandmother, seeing what values there were that had been passed on from one to the other. And then my father talks a lot about his grandmother, who was this woman's daughter, Imashetu. She's a woman after whom I'm named. And so the stories he had of her as well informed my writing of Amina. So I couldn't get much from research to write her inside. The outside, I went to sources from Kano, Sokoto, because there are written documents, like people like Queen Amina from the 15th century, some documents about her. Nana Asmau, who's another woman in the 1800s in Nigeria. So I could go to sources like that, but as to the family story itself, I had to just imagine.
It wasn't, wow.
Yeah, to imagine.
My goodness. So, what's next? I mean, after I read this book, I went on YouTube. I had this is the kind of book that makes you want to go do research, more, right?
Yeah.
So I wanted to know, and then I found that there are other different places throughout Ghana, with all these little slave holdings, right? These tiny little pockets of the country that are they're not developed, just as Salaga is not developed. So I suppose my next question is, will you be following up on these types of things in your next writings, or what's next for you? And for what are we going to look forward to? What do we have to look forward to?
So I think it's definitely whetted my appetite for finding out about us as West Africans. I don't even think of myself as Ghanaian these days, because that is just such a narrow border that was pasted on us. I mean, I know Nkrumah was the one who went back to find the name Ghana, but the border is what determines, us being Ghanaian.
Yeah.
And I definitely want a continent where we are one, where we can get up and go from one end to the other, like it was in the past. Which is not to say I just I have this blind nostalgia. I know there were lots of horrible things that happened in the past, like the story this book tells. But I think there's something to claiming an African identity. So my work is going back and looking at that. So my project right now is the Kola Nut, which is as pan-West African as it gets. You go to Senegal, it's used. You go to Mali, you go to Guinea, Sierra Leone, Nigeria. Every single country in West Africa has a kola nut culture. And it's existed since, I don't know when. Since
we've cultivated kola nuts,
exactly.
I'm sure. Yeah.
And then even in areas like Senegal and Mali, the kola nut doesn't grow. But it's a huge part of the culture. It only grows in Ghana and Sierra Leone, like the forest regions, and parts of Nigeria.
Okay.
So all of these fascinating details make appearances in the book because it's really interesting.
Yeah.
And then it ended up in Coca-Cola.
Yes.
So,
yes.
So the non-fiction book on the kola nuts. That's what I'm working on next. I hope to take one of the characters from this book and do something with her.
I hope so. Mm-hmm. I'm looking forward.
Yeah, and then we'll see, maybe some more historical fiction. I want to peel back the layers and really find out who we were, because I feel like school in Ghana taught us about the Mali Empire, the Ghana Empire, but it was all just the glory of them, and it was there was not much depth to these lessons and to our history. It's just, you should learn the dates that this happened in this century, or this was the famous figure. But what did it actually mean to live in a time like that? What were young women doing in a time like that? Those are the kinds of stories that interest me, and I think that can shape who we want to become. So I'm gonna keep digging and talking to whoever will let me talk to them.
That is I will talk to you every book you write.
Thank you.
I'll be very happy to. So what you just said just leads me to another topic, is cooking. And I read your article about the Sunday cooking history in the New York Times. I love that.
Thank you.
I love that article because, excuse me, I mean, on YouTube, I try to cook and I do different things, you know what I'm saying? But it's so nice to see that our food was being highlighted in such a magazine. Now, one of the things that you mentioned in that article that really caught my eye was your mention of, our the common use of, onga and MSG and all of those additives to our food. And that our grandparents would have shuddered, right? The horror. I loved it because this is something that I've been advocating for a very long time.
And it's all over West Africa. You go to Senegal, and then just and I'm like, you have all these spices. You have this dried fish that gives a lot more flavor and good nutrients. Why are you going for
and why are you going for this every time? And one time I when I cook soup, I never put those things in my soup because you have the bones from the meat and all of that adds the flavors, right? So why have chicken soup and then add chicken bouillon to the chicken soup? It doesn't make any sense to me.
Not to me. It doesn't either.
My grandmother never cooked like that, and I don't know. But then these days, this is happening all over West Africa. So I'm so pleased that you had written this article. How did you start writing for these publications? For such major publications.
I got lucky with let's see, what was the first? So when I was in New York after grad school, my very first publication was Yachting Magazine. So far removed from my reality. But I was interning, and I told the editor, who was really amazing, Don Wallace, and I said, I went to journalism school, I want to write, and I'd been interning as a web social media intern, so I wasn't flexing my writing muscles. And he said, okay, you know what? There's this column called Luxury Property, if you want to write something, and then we'll see. So I was like, yes. There's a lot of interviews over the phone, but I got it done, and then he liked the article I wrote. So I wrote maybe 3 or 4 articles for them. So that's how I got started. Yeah.
That is incredible.
Random.
It is so preppy. I love that. Yachting Magazine.
I don't think I'd even been on a yacht at that point, and I don't know if I've even been on one since. But
Is everything tasting okay?
everything's delicious, thank you. So that was the very first, and that was, I was in the right place, and I wasn't shy to ask for the chance to practice.
Yeah.
And then when I published my novel, that opened up my first book, opportunities to write for other publications, smaller publications. And then I got an agent, and that always helps as well.
Did
Having
get an agent. Okay.
yeah.
Having an agent helps.
It does. I mean, they fight for the best deals for you. So the very first New York Times article, it was a New York Times Magazine article. My agent was the one who connected me to that publication, and it was for the Lives column, where you shared a slice of life from your corner of the world. And I was living in Senegal, and we had a very weird thing happen where this man came into our house and he claimed he was selling clothes. So I wrote a piece on it called The Intruder. And then, and since then, opportunities have come my way. And then sometimes I'll have an idea and I'll be like the soup one. I couldn't get it out of my head because I was in Ghana, and I love ebunu so much.
I've never had it.
It's so good.
I've never had it.
It's so good. It's like light soup, but richer. I think the consommé just makes it so good. And I don't like it with meats. I like it with like snails and fish, like the articles.
Yeah.
So it's really earthy.
Yeah.
I could do with some right now.
Really?
So
that would be
good.
So fun.
So I wrote it, and then
that.
my publicity director for this book at Other Press, I shared it with her, whose film has just been picked up by Ava DuVernay and Netflix. So I'm like, Blitz, you need to talk about my book.
Yes. Get it in there. I think this would make for great Hollywood because of the storyline and the beauty of the characters and the strength and the all-female kind of lead, if you will. Yeah. Right. I think
and
that
just
would make
cinematically, Ghana is so beautiful.
It is. Oh, the lush green. I was there last year, and from the airplane, just taking the picture down, and it was just all green vegetation, I'm thinking, this is my country. So before I close with them, and I turn this, because this is going to turn off by itself.
Okay.
So we can continue talking and having breakfast. But I want to know, what is one thing about yourself that you would like readers to know that they would never have known about you? Something fun, something interesting.
I love to dance.
What kind of dance?
Everything.
Like azonto and every other
I don't know if I'm good at it.
Okay.
But I just have so much fun dancing.
Okay.
That I think it comes off as semi-good. Because I remember being in the moments of my sister stopping and being like, what are you doing? But I don't care. I love dancing. And being back in the US, I hadn't been back in 5 years. But I think when I got to reminiscing with a bunch of my friends, the common theme was just dancing, going out and just having a great time. Love dancing.
That is awesome. I love that. Thank you so much for meeting with me this morning.
Thank you so much.
So today we have spoken to the author of 100 Wells of Salaga, Ayesha Harruna Attah, and I'm so happy to have met her. And so I will put the link below for where you can get the book. and to learn more about her. And I'll put a link to her bio. Yes, and I'll also put an exaggerated map with this video also,
Okay.
the map in the beginning that she was mentioning. So thank you for joining me. Until next time, I'll see you again. Bye-bye.
Thank you.